want to talk about knowing your position. And a lot of people, a lot of young adults, right? We graduate from college. We did all the things that they said we should do. We got the good grades. We got the degree. We got the good job. And now we're out here in this world, and life is either testing us and trying us, maybe sometimes being good to us, but life is just coming and it's not stopping. Each and every day just continues to go by faster and faster. And just from many conversations with you guys, I'm hearing that it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up in this life that just goes, and you still trying to figure out your own flow. So to help you, I want to talk about knowing your position, because truly when I started to understand my position, y'all know me, I'm all about value, I'm all about identity, I'm all about purpose. And once I started to really understand those things and what that meant for me and what that looks like in my life, that's when this thing called life stopped slapping me around. That's when I realized I am the owner here. Like, I am not only the owner of my career, I am the owner of my relationships and my family. I am the owner of my position in this world. So that's what we're talking about today, y'all. I'm glad you're here. And I really want to start with this verse here, 2 Corinthians 6:18. I think it's a beautiful verse that really just talks about how God is a father to us. Not only is he our father, but he calls us daughter. He calls us son. And not only that, but he wants us to come to him in our times where we do feel like life is slapping us around left and right. So I want to tell you a funny story. It's not really funny. It's actually kind of sad, but it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of triumph. And I'm really, really proud of myself, because for the first time, I believe that I am starting to understand my position in my family. So about when I was 12 years old, I heard the song No One by Alicia Keys for the first time. And I love the song. First off, I love Alicia Keys, grew up on Alicia Keys. But when I heard the song, I was just like, oh my gosh, the piano in this song is so beautiful. If only I knew how to play the piano so I could play this song and sing it at the same time. I thought that would be amazing. So I started trying to do that. And I went to YouTube at the time, pulled up a video tutorial on how to play Alicia Keys on the piano. Now, there was a keyboard in my house, but the person that the keyboard belonged to was not the best father figure. And the reason why I say that is because he is no longer in my life or in my family's life. But he was a huge part of how I grew up. He was my mother's ex-husband, aka my stepfather. And he had the skill set to play the pianos. He knew how to sing. And I thought, okay, if he knows how to do these things, I could totally learn from him and now know my position in my family. Like, we could have a little band situation going on. Like, I'd be on the keys, he'd be singing. Maybe my sister or my mama would jump in too with some voice. It'll be a cool thing. Except that's not how it happened. I saw a lot of movies like the Jackson 5 and Tina Turner's and all these stories about child stars and even adult musicians who grow up and they put so much of their energy and their trust in the person who is teaching them to the point where they begin to be taken advantage of. And for me, I did not want that to happen to me, right? I didn't want to be the person that put all my trust and my hope in my music teacher because, he could teach me how to play the piano and he's in-house, so I have access to him 24/7. That also meant to me that he also got access to me 24/7. And that just didn't sit right with my spirit. So instead of reaching out to him and having him teach me how to play No One on the piano, I tried to do it myself. And the more I tried to do it myself, because I lacked the theory, because I lacked the basic foundational knowledge of how to play the piano, it was really, really tough for me. So not only did I have a hard time learning it. But eventually I just gave up on that dream altogether. I was like, I'll just never be able to play the piano. And if I'm singing, I'll just have to figure out my part by ear. And that was really what kind of set me back, I would say, even just in my teenage years, because I always had this mindset of I have to survive. And when you focus so much on surviving, you have a hard time thriving. And because I didn't know how to thrive, I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, trying to survive not only in this household, but I have all these dreams and all these visions and thoughts and hopes about singing, about playing the piano, about acting, about drawing, about all these creative things, except I was so stuck on surviving in the house that I was in, that I was not able to step into my position to thrive and really live out those dreams and those realities. Why am I telling you this? Well, because last year I started learning how to play the piano. And my piano teacher is on the live. Shout out to him, the Pride of Simba. Check him out. He's lit. Check him out, okay? God blessed me with someone that not only I could trust and see as a friend, but also see his family, who was willing to pour into me in a way that he was not required to. Not only that, but that season of survival that I was in for so very long of my life, it shifted. And I started to see like, wait, I actually have something in me. Like, not only was I being encouraged and hearing things like you're a natural at this, you're gifted at this, like all you got to do is put in the work and watch what you naturally have is just going to be amplified. Not only was that what I was being fed regularly, but I also was learning what it meant to chase after my dreams, to chase after what it is I know God been put in me, because I'm his daughter, because I'm his child, because he has a plan for me. He has a future and a hope for me of prosperity, of goodness, of great things. So I say all this because it wasn't until I realized like I don't have to just survive. Like I can actually thrive in this thing called life. I don't have to struggle and be knocked down left and right and be taken advantage of by the elements of life. I can actually take control and start to live out the dream and the reality that God has for me. And when I started to do that, when I started to know my position, I began to show up differently. And that's what today is about. Today is about showing up differently. Showing up differently. I started to show up differently in my family. My family is musical, but in like that old school black church sense, you know, with the wow, shawty. Like my family is crazy. I have an uncle, and his name is Terry, so we call him Uncle Terry. And y'all, he got the red hair, he got the red goatee, he got the gold tooth right there. You can't play with Uncle Terry. He about 6 feet tall and he loud. I mean, if y'all think I'm loud, Uncle Terry is loud, okay? And not only is Uncle Terry loud, but his energy, it just fills the room. And he sings and he plays the piano and he plays the guitar. Like he is so musically inclined. And I remember one day we were sitting at my great grandmother's house and he was there, I was there, my little sister was there. And I was like, let's all sing a song. Like, I just want us to sing How Great Is Our God. And Uncle Terry is like, cool. I'm like, because Uncle, see, I struggle to know my part. Remember, I told y'all I didn't learn the piano until last year. I just started learning. So I would always have trouble hearing my parts and knowing the harmony. So I was like, Uncle Terry, teach me how to get that harmony. Like, teach me how to figure out my part. And when I do that, when I know my part, when I know my position, I'm going to execute, right? I'm going to hit the melody. I'm going to stay on key. And we're going to be out here creating harmonies. So, y'all, he taught me my part. And it was me, him, and my little sister singing, How Great Is Our God. And I wish that this was YouTube for a second so I could put the clip of the video on the screen, because y'all, it was such a beautiful thing. But I say all this to say that my family is naturally, we have a lot of natural gifts in my family. But not all the time are we joining together and using them to create that band, to create this beautiful sound, something like the Walls Group. You know, I don't know if y'all know about the Walls Group, but they're a beautiful young Christian group. Like they sing and they dance and they just do all the things. And not only that, but they're a group of brothers and sisters, and it's 4 of them that's the Walls Group, but the mama got like 8 kids or something like that. They got nephews and cousins, and they all be up in there singing. They all know their part. They all know their position as a family. And not only do they know their parts and their position as a family, but when they sing, the sound you hear all the way from 26 down to 7, everybody knows their position. Everybody is thriving in their harmony. Everybody knows exactly what to say, when to say it, how to say it. They know how to bounce off each other's energy and hit a run here and hit a harmony there. Like they know their position as a family. And I realized that day when we was in my big mama's living room, that my family and me, I'll speak for myself, right? I didn't know my position in my family. I didn't know how to show up. And because I didn't know how to show up, we didn't really know how to grow up. Like we didn't know how to grow up together and grow a stronger bond and a connection. And I truly believe that once we start to know our position in our families, we'll have a different experience. We'll have a different connection. Because not only am I talking about our position in our physical families, right, in our earthly families, but even our positions in our spiritual family, in the body of Christ. It's so important for us to know our position, because if we can't show up the way that God originally intended for us to show up, then what are we really doing? Like, what we doing? We just taking up space. We're taking up good oxygen that somebody else could be using. So I want you to think about that. Think about, I know I used the example of music, and I talked about how I'm finally thriving in and learning how to play the piano and really committing myself to growing in the space that God intended for me to grow in. But I want to challenge you to think about, how do you show up in your family? It may not be musically, right? Like you may not have a musically inclined family, but you may have a family of intellectuals. You may have a family that really thrives on current events and debates and small group discussions. Like, we don't know exactly how we are called to show up until we start to thrive and live out what our position is. Because I'm realizing the more that I grow into who I am and who God has called me to be, when I interact with my sisters, it's different. When I talk to them, it's not just aimless conversation. It's like, okay, y'all, so we here, where are we going? Like, how can we better connect? Like, we know each other, but how do we know each other past our relationship, just sister to sister? Like, how do I get to know you as a mother of 3 children? How do I get to know you as a successful businesswoman in your current career? There's so many things that exist in our current relationships that if we start to show up in a more intentional way, because we know what it is we are supposed to be doing and we're operating in that, we'll start to see something blossom, something that's new being created. And it's really a beautiful thing. I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and she was just amazed by all the things I was able to tell her about who I am and what my understanding is of God and how God communicates with us and what the things are that the Spirit is telling us that we often kind of turned a blind eye to. It was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. But I wouldn't have been able to have that experience if I didn't know my position. If I didn't know what it meant to be a woman of faith. If I didn't know what it meant to be a woman of God. If I didn't know what it meant to be a soldier of Christ. And we talked about that last week. So I just want to ask you, how do you show up in your family? What is your position? Because once you understand that, once you know that, It will be a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience as you start to learn and cultivate deeper relationships with your family members. And that really takes me to two, right? I talked about, I want you guys to think about how you show up in your career, right? What is my position in my career? And ultimately, y'all, I'm going to be real with you. The way you show up in your family is different from the way that you show up in your career. It's different from the way that you show up in the world. Because in all these roles that you have, these titles that you have, yes, you are the same person. However, the level of relationship and association that you have with the different individuals, that's what is different. So the depth of the relationship that I have with my sisters is going to be a little bit different than a relationship that I have with my coworkers. But there can be a professional relationship that is not aimless and talking about the weather all the time. Do y'all have that experience, or is it just me? I mean, I think every day I get on the phone with somebody, it's, so how's the weather where you are? And it's like, y'all, how long we been working together? We still asking each other how the weather is? That's getting a little old. It's getting a little old. But I believe that is the case because as professionals, we even struggle to show up the way that we are to show up. We are, as professionals, as young Black women in corporate America, it's not easy to be your authentic self. It's not easy to be boldly you, to be uniquely you all the time, especially when you're around people that's not your skin color and don't understand what you're saying, even though you made sense when you said it. And I say that because it's so easy to grow weary in good doing, especially when you are trying to cultivate healthy relationships with your coworkers that go beyond how's the weather, but maybe not as deep like, okay, so how is your marriage? Like maybe it don't get that deep, but maybe there is a space for you to pour into your coworkers in a way that they see the light of Christ shining through you. Because remember, we're not surviving anymore. We're thriving. We have moved from surviving and into thriving. And so because this is our mentality, anybody that we interact with, anybody that's in our realm of influence, we understand that this is not just an aimless interaction. This is not just an aimless encounter. This is an intentional encounter. So when I show up in my career, it's not just to talk about the work and the weather. There's a gap here where these are real human beings that we experience on a daily basis. And there's an opportunity for you to share the light of Christ with them. It's an opportunity for you to share your encouragement with them. It's an opportunity for you to motivate them in a way that they may not be otherwise motivated. I say it all the time, you may be the only Christ that somebody sees. And if you are the only Christ that somebody sees, how do you show up in your workplace as that image of God? How do you show up in your workplace, and what is your position beyond your job title? Because if we are soldiers of Christ, if we are children of the Most High, if we are more than a conqueror, if we are lenders and not borrowers, if we are encouragers, how is that being displayed when we're at work? The place that we spend majority of our time, right? So I want you to think about that. And I know that it gets hard sometimes, especially when you, at least in my experience, I felt as if I have poured out and really stretched myself to get to know people and understand people that are different from me, and I'm not getting any results. What if you say, maybe you're the person, you're like, Kayla, I am showing up. I am shining my light. I am being an encourager. Like, I'm not allowing their negative energy to affect me. I'm always the one that's uplifting the room. I am the thermostat. I'm not the thermometer. Like, I'm out here. Maybe that's you. And I just want to encourage you that when you do show up, and because you know your position, and because you are thriving, don't grow weary in good doing. don't grow weary in good doing. Because the beautiful thing about thriving, we talked about this last week, is that endurance is how we win the race. Endurance is how we win the race. Endurance is how I was able to go from being 12 years old and not knowing how to play no one to now being 25 and I can play that joint. And it ain't perfect, but I'm still working on it. But I did what I put my mind to do. Like I whatever I set my mind to do, I don't care how long it took me to do it, I continued to take baby steps and I finally got there. So not only does that now help me show up in my family who is already musically inclined, and now I can add to the bunch and really lead some shed sessions, but now it also empowers me to show up in my career in a different way. I'm not there by accident. I'm not an imposter. I am qualified to inhabit this space on a technical level. Now, what is it that God would have me to do on the spiritual level? And so when I say know your position, right? What is my position in my career? That's really what I'm talking about. How are you to affect the spiritual atmosphere of your workplace? That's good. That's good. How are you to affect the spiritual atmosphere of your workplace? And I want you to think about that. Y'all know me. I like to ask the questions and I like for you to give me the answers, because I can't give you the answers, but what I can do is challenge you to think about your daily task and something that is common to you and normal to you. I can challenge you to think about that in a completely different way, in a way that is inspired by the way that God would have you to show up in your career. So not only is it important to know our position in our family to create a deeper familial bond, but it's also important for us to show up and know our position in our careers, so that when we do show up in our careers, we're not just aimlessly showing up, I'm just here to collect this check, but we are showing up in a way that we affect the spiritual atmosphere of our workplace. And well, Kayla, what you talking about affecting the spiritual atmosphere of the workplace? I'm saying when you're around those people who are not Christians, when you're around them people that say that they Christians, okay, but their actions don't say that they Christians, how are you the thermostat in those situations? How are you the peace in the middle of the storm? How are you the logical one in the midst of high emotions and tension? How are you the mediator, right? How are you the image of Christ in your workplace? Because that's really what we call to do. We're not just bearing a baby light. Like, nah, we got full bright lights out here that's meant to blind these people into knocking some sense into them. Like, there's so much importance in us understanding our position, because when we understand our position, we show up differently. And if y'all get nothing else from this, I want you to remember that when you understand your position, you show up differently. Which takes me to the last one. And you may think like, Kayla, first you're talking about knowing my position in my family. Now you saying know my position in my career. And you gonna put some more on me, talk about some know my position in the world? Girl, you're doing too much. Well, let me tell you, my friend, I actually believe personally that knowing your position in the world is probably the easiest one. It's the easiest one because, and hear me out. I say this because influence is the capacity, and I'm reading definition, it's the capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone. I'm gonna read that again. Influence. It is the capacity to have an effect on the character development or the behavior of someone. All right. So why would I say that knowing my position in the world is the easiest one of the three? Well, your family, you have those familial ties, right? And you probably got, I don't know about you, I got a couple family members that's a little questionable. Okay. And, you know, it's not always easy to, if God directs me to say something or to do something in my family, in this thriving state that I'm in, it's not always easy to do that thing, because Your family has known you throughout all your stages. My family has known me from my survival stages. And my family has known me in my season of disobedience. And now my family is seeing me in my thrival stage. So when God challenges me to approach my family, to correct my family in love, to educate and to edify my family, it's a little difficult because there's that bond there that some people will receive it, but then other people will be offended, and that has happened as well. So I say, it's a little bit hard with your family because you have those relationships, like deeper relationships. I would say the closest relationships that you probably have, and everybody is not always trying to hear what you're trying to put out, even if God told you to put it out there. Now your career, it's a little tough because it's on a little political end. Like I'm not just out here like Jesus. I'm not just out here like that. I gotta let my actions say Jesus, right? I gotta let my actions speak for my beliefs. I have to allow my actions to do the work, not my lips, not my mouth, not my words, but allow the Spirit of God to legit work through me, not only in the physical work that I produce, but also in the interactions that I have with those people. So in your career, it's a little bit tougher. It's a little bit hard because you got to navigate that whole separation and everybody don't believe in Jesus and all those things. But it's still some type of working relationship that you have to respect, right? You see, when you get out there in the world, you free. You could wear Black Teachers Matter all day long, and who gonna pop you? Nobody. I could wear hoop earrings, red lips, have my locks free. I could be loud in the grocery store, act a plum fool. Who gonna pop me? Nobody. Nobody's gonna pop me. Why? Because I don't have any relational connection to these strangers. I have no connection to these strangers. So I bet you was probably thinking, oh, Kayla, you said, know my position in the world? You know how big the world is? You know how many people it is, Kayla? I barely know my position in my life. How am I supposed to know my position in the world? You want to know how you're supposed to know your position in the world? Because every single place that you go, I promise you, it's an assignment there. I promise you, it's somebody there that you're not just seeing by happenstance. It's somebody in that space that needs to witness who you are as a young Christian woman who is thriving in her whole being. Like, she out here glowing. She out here popping. She is that person. Like, she is that girl, right? It's those people who you don't even know from Timbuktu. It could be people on the street, people in a grocery store, people in the traffic, right? I be on the street, y'all, and I ain't got no shame in my game. Like I said, in the world, there's no relational connection, right? Like, there's nothing established. So my realm of influence is only but for a moment, right? At work, it's every single day. And with my family, it's been my entire life. But with the people in the world, I got one shot to be authentically me in Christ, boldly, confidently, thriving. I got one shot to show that stranger. And I'm not talking about forcing nothing. Y'all know I ain't about that forcing nothing. I'm talking about just being uniquely you, being genuinely you, wherever you are. And people seeing how you interact with other people seeing how you show up, right? Because you know your position. I be on the road, y'all, and I be driving, and I'm that person on the street that got their windows down. I don't care how hot it is outside. I may also have my AC on, but I got my windows down, and I got my music blasting. So today, it was And You Don't Stop by the Walls Group. Check that out. And You Don't Stop. And when I tell you, y'all, I was singing to the top of my lungs. Okay, I was singing to the top of my lungs. The beautiful words, like, oh, I just love that song. I love that song. And I'm singing the song, and the person next to me, they got their window down too. They got their music blasting, but I don't care because I know what I'm singing. I know who I'm singing about. I know why I'm singing it. And we're living in troubled times. Like, my energy in that car, right? I don't know how this person that was to my right, I don't know how they were affected by me. They didn't say anything to me, right? Like, they didn't do anything. But I do know that if they pulled up next to me with their window down and my window was down, that they seen me. I know that much, that they seen me for an instant, right? Because we just at a traffic light. And in that moment when they saw me, what did they see? They saw a young black woman praising the Lord, not by force, not because somebody making her do it, with a smile on her face and enjoying it. They were able to witness the joy of faith. And because they were able to witness the joy of faith in that instant, that's why I say, knowing your position in the world is really the easiest one. It's the easiest one because there is no connection. You just got that one shot. And when you get that one shot, the way that you show up, if you are thriving and you are really embodying all that God has called you to be as a young Christian woman, I swear, honey, I swear, people will be looking at you, probably looking at you sideways, because they look at me sideways. But I know in their head they thinking, man, either she crazy or she free, or she both. And dang, I'm not doing that. Like, how I get like that? And I've even had people come up to me in the grocery store like, what you on? Like what you got going on? It's something different about you. And boom, there it go, just like that. Just like that, I pull them in and I talk to them freely about the love of Jesus Christ. Hallelujah, hallelujah. So, y'all, I'm telling you, when you know your position, right, in your family, when you understand that you are a child of God, when you understand in your career that you are a beacon of light, when you understand that in the world you are a city on a hill, when you understand your position, you show up different. You show up different. You show up with an intention to influence in the way that Christ influenced. And that, my friend, is the most beautiful thing that we have as believers. We're not just out here, even though life may be smacking us in the face as young adults, right? Even though we may be tempted and tried and tested on the front and on the back. The beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that we have is Christ. And not only do we have Christ, but in him we have direction. In him we have guidance. And the more that we grow, I'm telling you, the more that I grew in God, the more that I grew in Christ, the more that I grew in our relationship, your girl went from surviving to thriving. And so I want to encourage you to know your position. Know your position in your family, right? How does who you are and how you show up, how does that affect your family? Know your position in your career. How do you affect the spiritual atmosphere of your workplace? And know your position in the world. If you only got one shot, if you only got a one chance, if you only got a one cashier, if you only got a one traffic light, if you only got a one beautician, if you only got a one stranger walking down the street, if you only got a one stranger walking on the trail, if you only got a one person in the gym asking you if you're using that weight, how will you show up and shine the light of Christ? So, I love y'all and thank you for joining me today. Hey, I just made it up today. I just made it up, but y'all know I'm out here. I'll be freestyling left and right, okay? So thank you for joining today. It is my pleasure to share with you all the things that God has for you to hear. If you joined this joint today for any reason, it's because God needed you to hear something. Know your position. Know your position. Know your position. Not only in your family, but know your position in your career. Know your position in the world. I love y'all. Thank you for joining me. And if there are no comments, questions, concerns, I'm about to head out because I got to continue thriving in this life. Okay. So I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all with the love of Christ. I encourage you to know your position. Think about those questions and thrive in your daily life. All right, y'all. Hey, cousin. All right, I'm about to end this joint, though. So thank you for joining, and I will see you next week on Wednesday at 8 p.m.